Sulene, tell me your journey from South Africa to America.
Okay, so when I was younger, my mother got remarried to an American, to a New Yorker. So out of nowhere, all of a sudden, so they were together for about a year, and then they decided to get married and they decided to move to New York. So I'm an only child, so they were going to take the whole family over there. And all of a sudden, I was living in upstate New York, about 2 hours from the city. I had never been in the States before. I'd changed my whole life. It was so crazy at first. I tell everyone it reminded me of that movie Mean Girls, when Lindsay Lohan walks into the cafeteria and there are like all these different groups of people and she doesn't know where to sit. It's just like this crazy feeling of like, oh. And I also learned that not a lot of people knew that much about South Africa, so they had all of these crazy questions about where I was from, and a lot of them had to do with stereotypes, which I'm not going to get into right now. So that was my first taste of America, and then I loved it. After like a couple of months of like trying to find my footing, I then started to play guitar, so that was a really important time, because I lived close to Woodstock, so there were a lot of kids that were just into that. So that was a super positive thing that happened. Two of them split up. So I moved back to South Africa. At that time, I just loved the music culture, especially in New York. And I finished high school, and that's when I decided on my own accord, with no family or anything, to get a student visa and apply to one college, which was Berkeley. And I was just so set on that. And I got in. I found out really late that I got in. So it's probably like the most stressed I've ever been in my life for about a month. And I got a composition scholarship to go there, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to ever afford that. Went to Berkeley and studied film composing, and then I decided to move to New York. So it really kind of went full circle, if you think about it.
What type of people did you meet in Berkeley?
In Berkeley I met some of the most incredible people. Oh my gosh, a lot of people now who are especially really changing the game. Like if I think of someone like Jess from Betty Who, you know, like I had classes with her. She was a cellist at Berkeley, and now she's a major pop star. Like that's so wild. I still live with a lot of people who I was first close to, and like since my first year. A lot of people just went on to do totally amazing things. Like Annie Clark from St. Vincent was there right before I was there. So it's super inspiring to know that we had the same playing field. We went to the same school. Like we can have the same opportunities. So yeah, it's inspiring for sure.
Moving from South Africa to New York City, how did you feel without family around, parents around?
Yeah, so that second move when I moved on my own, that was a really hard time. As much as the first thing I always say is that it was so incredible. I got to go to my dream school. Also, I had this freedom as a teenager for the first time. My family is very conservative and very strict. So all of a sudden I was living in the town with the most colleges in it, right? Boston. So that was crazy. But underneath all of that, like, I remember the first Thanksgiving that happened, and it was like, oh, I don't know where to go. And like the dorms are closed during that time. Like, what do I do? And that's like those little moments when you're like, oh, I'm like on my own now, you know? Like this is the life that I chose. So that was difficult. It was really hard for me and my mom because we're really close. I'm an only child. My parents had split up. My dad, I think it was hard for other reasons, even though he's super supportive. My mom is a musician, and she didn't pursue it. She's a classical pianist. So, of course, he was coming from this place of, like, are you sure you want to study music? And, like, that conversation pretty much went on, like, all through college, unfortunately. So there were a lot of complicated feelings surrounding... anyone will probably say this, but, like, going for what you want in life, you're going to offend some people. It's going to make some people upset. And... you just kind of figure it out as you go on.
Now, what's been your experience living in New York City?
It's been really good. I think I'm now reaching the stage where I'm like, yeah, I'm really doing it, you know? Like, there's no... I mean, I was never gonna, like, quit, but the beginning is so hard. Like, just trying to figure out... like, no matter how much I prepared myself for living in New York City, coming from Boston, nothing could have actually prepared me for what it's like. How expensive... just to live there is, you know, like just being able to make rent and play music and do that with music is like such a crazy puzzle to figure out, and it has taken me a long time. But moving to New York City was the best thing I ever did for my career because it led to all of these insane opportunities, you know.
What was your craziest touring experience?
Craziest touring experience, that one is easy. So, finished a world tour with Nate Ruess, dropped off in Brooklyn, like, oh my god, what am I gonna do next? I don't know what to do. Like, a month goes by, and then the tour manager calls and is like, so we have a gig next week, we're wondering if you're free on, like, Thursday. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm free on Thursday. It's like, cool, it's in Washington, D.C. I'm like, alright, sounds good. I didn't even ask what it's for, because it's like, yeah, I'm free. And then I get an email the next day, okay, everyone, we're confirmed for this gig in D.C. It's at the White House for Barack Obama.
Wow.
So I was like, what? That was, like, absolutely mind-blowing.
Did you meet Obama?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't get to meet Michelle. That would have been great. She was busy. But it was for the Teacher of the Year conference, which is so cool. So they invite, like, I think it was like 250 teachers, don't quote me on that, some number like that, from across the US in public schools, and they invite them to the White House, which is just so badass. And they pick like the Teacher of the Year and give her an award, and President Obama gave a speech and like put his arm around her, and I was like tearing up watching this, like this is so wild. And Nate Ruess was the entertainment for that. So we had a stripped down band. We had 4 out of the 7 of us. So I'm like, okay, I'm so glad I made the cut on that one. Got a picture with Obama and everything. Like it was absolutely wild. Yeah.
You know, I was going through your bio. I mean, you mentioned some of this stuff, but you were the lead guitarist for Nate Ruess of Fun and Betty Who. You performed everywhere from clubs in Brooklyn to the White House. You've been heard on TV shows on Showtime and CBS. You played on national TV on Seth Meyers, Jimmy Kimmel, and The Today Show. I mean, this is cool stuff. This is huge stuff.
It's fun stuff.
It's, I mean, fun. I mean, what does your family and friends think in South Africa when they hear about you touring and doing this big stuff?
It's a really good question. I mean, first of all, they think it's rad, and I think that my parents especially are very proud of that. It's always cool to go home, because it has been a rough ride, a lot of it, you know, so it's nice to go home now and meet people and have my mom introduce me, and like I can tell that she's stoked on it, you know. This is my daughter, she's a musician, she lives in New York. And of course the dynamic is changing between all of us, because I'm getting older now and it's different. It's not like I'm just in college, I'm my own human. But a lot of my friends, I feel like, especially who aren't musicians, they think it is all very glamorous. Like, I mean, on the internet, this is a big problem, right? Because people post just all the amazing things happening all the time. And
I do.
Right, you're just like, I'm ripping the gig all the time and it's great, you know. But the real difficult part is, like I mentioned, like the time in between. And just even when I played at the White House, like that month of like post-tour, like depression, like horribly just confused, like what am I going to do next with my life? And then having like one of the most incredible things in my life happen, you know. But I think the other thing that I would point out is like, it just takes a lot of perseverance and hard work, and I think it's easy to like not remember that when you only see the amazing things, just like. Now,
you just dropped a new single on Friday.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, can you talk about that?
So, by the way, this record came about because I put out Strange, it did all these really cool things, and then the label I'm with, Sleepwell Records, started saying, well, are you interested in getting remixes made, or like what else can we do for content to like keep this whole thing going? And I came to them with the idea of me reimagining it in the style of my composing. Like, that's not the word I used at first, because now the branding word is reimagining it, you know? So once I decided to do that, I made the entire thing, and right after when I was listening to it, I was just a light bulb moment, like, this song, Something New, belongs on this. It is totally in that same world, and I'm glad that I could like take it from one record and like put it next to the other one, and it made sense. So we decided to lead this release with the first single being a brand new song, which is really exciting because it's one I've been playing at shows for a long time, so it felt good to like actually have a recorded version of it and put it out there. And I hope it can mean something to a lot of people who are doing kind of what I'm doing, like just moving to another place and moving away from home, pursuing something really difficult. That's what the song is about. So it means a lot to me that it is so in line with how I'm feeling even right now. Even though I wrote it like 2 years ago, it's like it holds true. So that is called Something New, and I'm stoked I'm leading with that.
Is there an overall message you want to convey to the audience?
With that song, or just in general?
In general.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this whole release is so special to me because it's so personal. It's just, I've reached this point in my life where I work super hard. I want to do all these amazing things. I'm always trying to better my musicianship and support other amazing musicians and like just working really hard. But the main thing is like I'm now getting to this place where I'm trying to follow my instincts as an artist and as a musician, and I'm gearing towards working with musicians where it feels right. Their messages are like in line with my own, even though if I'm just playing guitar for them or something, it's important to me that it's in line with what I believe. And so with realizing this, it's totally affecting my music and the way that I make music. So if I go to the record label and say, well, I'm also a composer, I don't really want to get remixes made, I feel like I shouldn't, I think that I should do this whole version of the record myself, it means a lot to me that at this stage I can follow through with just a spark of an idea and do something that makes me happy. So I think the overall message at this point and with this release, I would say, is to just find things that excite you and like just go for it. And don't worry about what other people are doing or what the normal trend is. Like, just do things that are interesting to you, because that is going to feel so good at the end of the day, you know? So that's how I came about with this music.
Great. Well, thank you for telling your story, Sulene.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.